Hi folks, welcome to week 4, Memory, Motivation, and Wellness. And the general themes or the general tasks for this week are very similar to what you did in the past. I did want to do a video, however, because I wanted to speak a little bit about the outline for the Walk in Their Shoes project. So I'll actually talk about that first. So to access information about the outline, certainly you can go to the project information area, but I've also provided the information here as well. And I do want to draw your attention to the fact that the outline is due by the middle of this week, so Thursday at 8 p.m. And I did that so you could, excuse me, have your feedback before the beginning of week 5, because I want you to be able to dedicate week 5 to writing the paper. And I wrote in the announcements that if you submit your outline ahead of time, I can most likely get you feedback pretty promptly, but please do send me an email and just direct my attention to that. So to learn more about what is expected for the outline, of course, you can click on this. Before I go over some high points of these expectations, I want to tell you a little bit about why I'm asking you to submit an outline. So first of all, I asked you to submit the notes before, just to make sure everybody was on the right track and was understanding the assignment. Now, the reason why I'm asking you to do an outline is because research that has been completed by English faculty looked at the benefits of writing an outline or writing a rough draft or simply just going right ahead with a final paper. And it probably doesn't surprise you to learn that if you do an outline or a rough draft prior to sitting down and writing the paper, the full paper, the final paper ends up being better. What surprised me was that doing an outline and getting feedback on that actually resulted in an even better final paper than a rough draft. And I'll tell you, over the summer when I was teaching an accelerated course like this, I had the students for the first time do this type of outline, and boy oh boy, the final papers really were some of the best papers that I had read. So there's a reason why I'm asking you to do this. Now, in terms of what's expected for the outline, I have tried to be pretty explicit. Now, you are going to be evaluated on a thesis statement. So as you may recall from your English courses or other content courses, your thesis statement is going to be the final statement in your intro paragraph, the final sentence. It should summarize the goal and main points of evidence that you will be presenting in your paper. So it might go something like this. Living with borderline personality disorder impacts a variety of aspects of people's lives. Here we will really examine the impact on relationships, work, and a person's sense of self. Okay, so that's a pretty generic thesis statement, but you can see it summarizes the goal of the paper and the key areas. So you'll be evaluated on the presence and quality of your thesis statement, and then you will be explaining the order in which you'll be presenting your information in the paper. I would like to have some indication of the points of research that you will be using. So for some of you, you may be putting in like the whole example, like 5-6 lines of the example, or it might just go something like example of blogger 123's difficulty with going back to school. So to give you an example of a quality outline, this is the example that I provided to you, and this is an outline that I actually wrote to accompany one of the sample papers that I provide in the project folder. So I have explained essentially what information is going to go in each paragraph. So each paragraph is indicated by more or less by these diamond bullet points. So the introduction, these are the key points that are in that introduction paragraph, and then you can see I have the thesis statement, and this is the thesis that the student herself actually wrote. I didn't write that. All right, then paragraph 2 would be the general effects of addiction. So this would be how it's impacting the person's day-to-day life. And so you see here, I've just been pretty general. And at each point in each paragraph, she ended with her own sentence where she reflected on the information. And this is really something that I want to emphasize, that part of writing a paper is inserting yourself, your opinion, your reflection. Absolutely, a research paper should have research, but it should also have a little bit of the author's reflection. Otherwise, it's just a literature review. So I just put that in here because I really want you to work to make sure that each paragraph you write is presenting cited research and is presenting a little bit of your reflection. It doesn't necessarily have to come at the end. That's just an easy way to do it. So a paragraph on symptoms, and you can see she clumped her symptoms together because there were so many of them. Symptoms related to appearance, symptoms related to behavior, symptoms related to cognitive changes, and in each case, this is just indicating, if I went back to my research, I would know which research came from Trina and the example of the shadow people. So this little bullet point right here might go along with a long sentence or two. And then another thing I want to emphasize to you is that when you are writing your paper, please limit your quotes. I would say as a general rule, no more than 4 quotes in your paper, and please don't let the quotes get too long. You want to really just keep that piece of information that, maybe the emotion, the power of it would really be lost if you paraphrased it. Go ahead and keep that as a quote. Otherwise, you want to put information into your own words. And so if you look over this example, you see there aren't that many quotes that the author put in. And this was really a top-notch paper, I will add. Losing sense of self, impact on work, impact on family, experience with treatment. And in each paragraph, you can see this author has included specific real-world sources. All right, so she has the factual stuff in the beginning. Some of you might end up with factual stuff in all of these paragraphs, but make sure there are real-world sources in every single paragraph. And then finally, you go with a conclusion, and you will summarize what you have learned or what the reader should be learning after they finish doing your paper, and include some restatement or rewording of your thesis. So here I've gone back to the expectations page, and this is just a general point summary for what I'll be looking for when I'm evaluating. I want to see that thesis statement. I want to make sure that you are at least addressing to some extent all of the required topics. And then you should also make sure that for each one of these required topics, you have presented research. And research for this paper is really centering on those real-world sources that you're getting from blogs, chat rooms, videos, interviews, etc. Another thing I want to emphasize is that you want to make sure your paper is organized by topic and not by source. So if we go back to that sample outline here, you can see that it is organized by a topic. She didn't put everything from some chick in one paragraph and everything from Yoko in another paragraph. When you do that, it's easier as the writer. It is easier to just organize by your source, but then it forces your reader to try and make the connections. So here, the author of the paper has done the effort to combine similar ideas together, and that's really something I want to see from you, and I think that's probably what any of your teachers, your readers, are going to want to see from you as well. I want to emphasize to you finally that any questions that you have, you want some feedback, you want to talk on the phone a little bit about if you're struggling, please do reach out to me. I think those of you who have sent me a text or an email have gotten a pretty rapid response. I think at one point I was going for a run, somebody texted me, I stopped running, I responded to the text. I really do want to make sure that you feel like you're getting pretty good feedback here. Excuse me. So please reach out to me if you're having any difficulty. So that's the main thing that I wanted to bring up in this video. Now, since we're here, I'll go ahead and review the things that we are doing for this week that are related to our topics. I really love this week. I love memory, but I think given that you're healthcare workers, this issue of motivation and wellness are pretty important. I'm really excited about the videos that we have here. This stress video really surprised me when I first came across it, and then I went ahead and looked into the research that she refers to, and I think it's pretty exciting. It turns out, in brief, that when we think about stress as being something that empowers us, that strengthens us, we end up being benefited by that stress. When we think about stress as being something that's troublesome and difficult, then we end up being hurt by it. So it really is a case of, to a certain extent, mind over matter. But you still should watch the video, even though I just summarized it for you. I bring this one up here because I think for many of us, anger and not being able to forgive a person is actually really harming us. I used to require this video. I'm now making it optional. But I think if you are experiencing some challenges with being unable to forgive somebody, even being unable to forgive yourself, this is a really worthwhile video. You can see it's only 6 minutes. Worthwhile video to check out. And then I link to his actual page at Stanford. Sleep video. For those of you going into healthcare, you're probably going to not be getting healthy sleep. This talks a little bit about some of the effects of it, but then also a little bit of reflection on how we can minimize the damaging effects of not having enough sleep. I absolutely love this video right here, the effective physician. The physician here is talking to a mom who is not really interested in quitting smoking, but of course, for her own health and the health of her child, the health would be improved if she did quit smoking. And oftentimes doctors will and nurses will try to shame or guilt a patient into changing. And if you've ever had anybody do that to you, you know it doesn't work. It just gets you to dig in your heels. So this is actually using a technique known as motivational interviewing that was started with people working with substance abusers, and it's tremendously effective in changing behavior. So I think it's a worthwhile watch for you. And then we also have memory videos. We're back with Hank in our Crash Course series. And of course, he reviews key concepts from the textbook. All right, so what do we do with all this information? Well, a couple of key assignments for this week. One, you have a journal reflection. So you're just submitting this directly to me, like you did this past week with the journal reflection on autism. And you will choose one topic, either improving study habits or improving treatment adherence among patients. And I have reading dedicated to either of those. So you will choose which topic you want to look at or reflect on in your journal. Read the relevant reading. Certainly you're welcome to review both of them, but you're only expected to review the reading that's associated with the topic you chose for your journal. And then you'll submit the journal just like you did this week by clicking here and composing your journal, ideally composing it into Word and pasting it in here. We also, of course, have our group discussion for the week, and because there are so many topics that we are reviewing this week with the wellness and the motivation, I went ahead and went with another Google presentation like we did in the beginning. I do want to emphasize, though, because this week I had some really short discussion board posts. All of your discussion board posts are expected to be at least 300 words long. And another thing is, I really strongly encourage you to have at least one of your responses being made after Thursday evening, because a lot of people will complete their posts at the last minute Thursday afternoon. And so if you are doing all of your contributions on a Tuesday, you haven't seen what your group mates have done. So in terms of the Google presentation, I'll look at this side over here. You have things that are related to stress and happiness, and then we get into sleep deprivation, and then effective communication. So this gets into that motivational interviewing video that you were provided. And then finally, this is something that is really, I think, important for all healthcare providers, all people, but certainly there's a tremendous amount of obesity prejudice in healthcare, and I encourage you to look over that. So all of these are what you will reflect on in the discussion board, and as we have in the past, you may wish to reserve your topic. We also have some UPR presentations related to stress and memory, and then finally you have your weekly quiz. So if you do have any questions about things that you are expected to do, whether it be the outline for the paper or anything else up here, please don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I look forward to reading your contributions. Take care.